Hello, everybody. Just getting set up here. Sorry for if you've come on and you're here at 4 o'clock. I apologize. I had some technical difficulty and got it all set up and straightened away. So thank you for your patience if you are on at 4 o'clock. This was sort of a quick thing that I decided to do because the divine had told me to. A lot of you know that Get Balanced 2020 is all about spirit, mind, and body. So if divine tells me to do something, I do it. So it's not for me. So this is for somebody out there apparently needing this, watching, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so let's get started because I know you're wanting to get into it. So those of you that are brand new to Get Balanced 2020, welcome. So what I do is I actually transform your mindset to a positive mindset and also teach you about spiritualism, where yours comes from and why this is our basis of where we make our decisions from. And then our body, which is about fitness and nutrition and that kind of thing. So we have to have all three elements in order to have balance in our lives. But the biggest thing that human beings struggle with is this thing right here between our ears, boop, boop, right here. So with that, I go ahead and I try to help and give you tips and coach and do that kind of stuff through all three elements. So you'll see a lot more videos on spirit and mind because those are the two key components that actually work together, and then our body follows because I'm going to share with you. So bear with me. I've made some notes. And we are talking about, as you can see the topic, the words can't, fail or failure, try and try to. And I'll give you some stories, and maybe my sensei is going to watch one time. I hope so. But it's all a lot of what I think and do started actually way back when with him, when I studied martial arts, Aikido. But anyway, so what I'm going to be talking about is how that our mind actually works. So bear with me for a few seconds because you really need to understand how our mind really makes decisions and choices, the things that we say, the things that we do, those kind of things. And it's just going to be basics because I'm not a scientist. I am not a doctor. I just understand how the brain works with all the psychology and the classes and the education and the research and firsthand knowledge, actually. So a lot of the way that we are formed, okay, so the number one thing that our whole being bases our decisions off of is actually our spirit. So you'll hear people call, your spirit in many, many ways. I don't really look at religion. I don't sort of believe in religion. I believe in having a spirit, and that spirit within us is about love and truth. Okay. And so anything that we do, especially as babies, they don't even think about this stuff because they're just love. That's all they are. If you watch children, they're usually about love straight out of the chute. We actually teach and train them to think and act and do as they get older. So if we were to leave a child alone, that child would probably just love everybody and everything, and it really wouldn't matter. But because we have to actually form them to society and form them to our cultures, whatever culture that is, then we have to train their brain pretty much. So depending on how your brain was trained when you were a baby to a toddler, literally, that is the beginning of where our spirit changes. So spirit, well, I can't say it. I take that back. Spirit never changes. Spirit is always love and truth. Where we get into trouble is our spirit speaks to our soul. Our soul is our personality. Our soul is who we are, who we built, who we are to be, our character, our personality, everything that we like and don't like, and things like that. So let me complicate this a little bit more. So your spirit speaks to your soul. So your personality. So for example, I'll give you an example because so it keeps it simple. So, and I'm going to talk about this for only a few more minutes. so that we can get into the words can't, failure, and try. But here's the thing, is when we look at our soul and it doesn't do what our spirit wants us to do or move forward or say something, then we fight our head and our spirit. Okay, so this is how the connection works in our thought process, subconscious, conscious, that kind of thing. Let me give you an example. I'm a horse person. That's my soul. I have horse in me somewhere, as far as that's what I love, I think, that's what I do, right? So if I was to look at a horse and say, oh, I'm going to get on that horse, and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm experienced, I know about horses, I'm going to get on that horse. And then that horse is dancing around and acting a little wild and a little bit, but my head is saying, I can handle that horse, but Spirit's saying, don't get on that horse. Do not get on that horse. And that is your intuition inside your head, but you go do it anyway, and then I get hurt. That's what I'm talking about. The fight we have between our head and our heart and our spirit, our intuition. Okay, so let's move on. So we've got subconscious versus conscious. Our subconscious is actually what we've been trained and buried in our head. Also comes out in our dreams sometimes. So being able to interpret dreams is actually sort of fun. Sometimes I can't do them all. Some can get pretty creepy and scary, just depending on the past. But the thing is, a lot of what we do and what we form and go from, and I'm going to keep saying this is all started and rooted from when we were kids. So that's the same thing with any words that come out of our mouth. Words are so powerful, It's like dating, you play these games, dating games, and how hurtful they could be or how wonderful they could be. Or when you're married, how your husband or wife makes you feel. They could be very wonderful. Just like, oh, I can't go there. But it's just like a double-edged sword. It's like one side is truth, one side is lying. That's why a lot of faith and religions use the sword, because truth and lies. So that's a lot. Words can be a double-edged sword. So we have to be really mindful. So where do those words come from? Where does that design come from? From the words that we use. Maybe we start out really innocent like those children, and then all of a sudden we start developing bad habits, or we start developing manipulative habits, or maybe we start developing low self-esteem. We start developing low self-worth. We start developing anything, an addiction or an abuse. Maybe I'm an abuser. Where does all that start from? It starts from our roots, from our childhood, from where we are. So we, as a lot of light workers, we talk about inner child work. We need to get that little inner child. We got to find out what happened way back then to cause those thoughts to be more negative, more destructive to self, rather than loving and productive to self. So let's take a look at the word can't. Okay, I've got notes because I'm doing 2 videos today for 2 different channels, so I've got to make sure I'm on track on the right one. So when we look at the word can't, we have to look at, one, we have to recognize what that word means to us. It's just a word. Is it really a word that you just spew out simply, I can't do that. Can't do that. Or is it something like, I can't. I really can't. So this is a word that puts a block in our progression of what we can do and what we should be doing for ourselves. It also can hinder our growth in something that maybe the divine wants you to do, that you have a calling and a purpose to do. It also hinders our thought process to a forward movement. So we want to be able to make sure that we're actually moving forward and forward thinking. If you use the word can't, you just put a block that maybe shouldn't even be there in your life. Okay, so here's the thing. If you're to use, I want you to really think about this, because the first step, we're going to go through 3 steps. The first step of recognizing, and you can use this for habits. You can use this for a bad habit. You can use this for something that maybe isn't good for you or is destructive for you. And it's really just a process, a mind thought process to change that thinking. So here's the thing, and the word can't, because we're going to do them separately, can't, fail, and try, because there's a little bit difference in each one. Because when you use the word can't, you block yourself. So where is that block coming from? The first step that you have to do is, and what I did this as a test for a friend of mine. I actually got tired of hearing the negative nanny all the time. So what did I do? I actually sat there one day and we were out doing something. I'm not going to say what because it'll give it away. So we were out doing something. I said, you know what? Can you do me just a favor today? We're going to hang out together all day. Could you just do me one little favor? Because they didn't think that they were thinking negative. So a lot of people don't realize how much they use the word can't or try or fail or put that on to somebody else. You can't do that. Or, you know, I can't do that. You can't do that. If I can't do that, you can't do that. You're putting an expectation on somebody else that's really not fair. But the thing is, I said, I want you to think today, each time you think, just think, not let alone say, but think a negative thought. And they're like, well, I don't think that much. I don't think that negative. I was like, okay, well, let's see. So I didn't say a word the whole day about it. I just let it go. And I was hoping this person was actually listening to what I said and to see. Well, at the end of the day, surprise to me is they came to me and said, you know what? I said, what? I cannot believe how many times I was thinking negative thoughts. I lost count. That is the first step, recognizing what you're doing and how much of it that you're doing. Okay? So that is the number one step. And you're like, okay, yeah, so how do I do that? Well, if you're using the word can't, it's very easy. How many times during the day do you use can't? Or that you want to do something but can't. So a lot of the times can't is out of fear. Okay, so fear is what blocks us. We can do anything. We can attempt to do anything. Doesn't mean we'll succeed fully, but if we attempt to do something, we might even surprise ourselves that we can do that. So where does that come from? So we need to recognize, number one, that we're doing it, how much we're doing it, who we're doing it to, or are we just doing it to ourselves? Are we sabotaging our own self? We probably are. So recognize that, where did this start? So do the 5 W's on yourself. Do the 5 W's. What, where, when, how, and why. Well, I don't know where they come with how, but anyway, you know what I mean. So go to those. Where did it start? Did it start at your childhood? Did somebody abuse you as a kid? Did somebody not believe in you? Did somebody put you down? Did you have that in a daily habit? Did it become a daily thing? Did it become a weekly thing? Did it become a monthly thing? And this is just something that you're brought up in and thought was normal. It's not saying that it's wrong, because parents do the best that they can most of the time. There's parents out there I've seen, like my neighbors, that don't. Anyway, but that's a question. Did it happen? Did it start in your childhood? And if it started in your childhood, it had to be a family member, or maybe somebody that visited the family, maybe a babysitter. Where did these thoughts begin? Did it start out in school? Did you look quite not the same? Or maybe like Dolly Parton, I just love her to pieces. A poor child in school got ridiculed because she had holes in her shoes, clothes were sewn by her mom, things like that. Did it start in school? Did it start with bullying? Did it start with all that kind of stuff? Did it start with a trauma? Was there a death of a family member or a parent? Or did it start with maybe some abuse, some sexual abuse? Or did it start out with no father in the home and mom was yelling all the time or whatever. So these are things that you want to recognize. Where did this start? That's why when on Get Balanced 2020, we go back to the roots. There's a whole series. I'm getting goosebumps. So whole series, 3 to 4 series on how to get back to the roots and find out how to change that, how to change our thought process into more productive. And this video is about to get you to not use these words in your vocabulary, change them to more productive, and actually begin to move your life forward in a more productive, positive way. Okay, so once you do that, okay, so you get to that point, because I'm going to tell you a story right now before I go into part 2. So, and I hope he's watching. I love him to pieces. He's been an inspiration throughout my life without even knowing it, and that's my Aikido sensei, Sensei Onchi. I love him to pieces. But he taught me, I was in my, gosh, he probably remembers better than I do. I think I was maybe in my early 20s. I was in my early 20s because he did some shiatsu and found a cyst that I had on my tailbone, actually. But the thing is that I went into his dojo with a mindset. I had low self-esteem, low self-worth, low confidence, but I really, really wanted to do this. I really wanted to learn a martial arts. Sorry, Sensei, but I really wanted to learn Kendo. But I thought this was really a cool thing. So I went into his dojo, and we were doing good. I was doing great. I was getting some confidence up, and I was doing good. Until we had to do the rolls. The rolls off of our shoulder, where you literally tumble yourself over on your shoulders like doing a somersault, but you actually just do that with your arms this way, and you actually roll this way, and you roll over, and you throw yourself. So as I was watching everybody, my eyes got big, and I was like, I can't do this. So I went up, first time, and I said, can I pass? And he's like, yep, that's fine. So we were in a line, and we just kept doing it. And so about the third time, I said, I can't do this. So he had somebody else help teach the class. So they kept going. He took me outside, and he says, don't you ever say can't in my dojo again. And so we had a discussion. And the more that I learned and the more that I built my confidence in myself, it was I had to learn to trust myself, believe in myself, love myself, and grow myself in order to do it. I stayed with Aikido for I don't know how many, 3 years or something like that. But by the end, he actually had me assisting, teaching the rolling method. So don't use the word I can't, especially in his dojo. Actually, he's all retired now. But anyway, so let's get back on track. So this is a mindset. This was a mindset that I went into that dojo that I was going to allow myself to just not do it. It's a cop-out to yourself. It is cheating yourself. It is actually not allowing yourself to see the capabilities that you can really, really do. So number 2 is you need to analyze. You need to analyze and really start to absorb, okay, this is a process that I have actually been doing to myself that I do need to change because I am living in fear. My fear in that dojo was basically, I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to make a fool of myself. Somebody's going to laugh at me. I'm looking at all the externals of what's making me and making my choice not to do it. So this is my question to you. You need to analyze, number 2, analyze why is it that you're using that word? And I will almost say 90% or more of the time it's because you are fearful. Or you're like, well, okay, it's a money thing. I financially can't do it. If it's a priority, you will figure a way to gain the financial part of it to do whatever it is that you want to do. Does that make sense? So we need to analyze it. We need to sit down, do the nitty-gritty. Okay, well, that fear started out when I was a kid, when my brother was teasing me all the time, calling me fatso, calling me ugly, calling me this, calling me that. Maybe it was from that. And then you grew up, and you came up with a low self-esteem. Maybe you were heavier set. Maybe, you didn't have the best nutrition. But you know what? Sometimes we are a mold of what we've been taught or even what we're following. Okay, so that's number 2, analyze that. And number 3 is the part that takes the most work, because it does take work to go ahead and recognize it, analyze it. And the third part is when we have to actually begin to change that pattern of what we're doing. And the pattern is we need to stop and eliminate that word in our vocabulary. It has to go, because the thing is, you're allowing fear then to direct and guide your life. So if it is an issue from childhood on up, maybe you need some coaching. Maybe you need some professional counseling or a psychiatrist to get you through those. If it is trauma, it will take somebody to help you get through those. And it is not a bad thing, because a lot of the times, if there's any abuse or trauma from a childhood, you carry that into your adulthood, and that's where you're making your decisions. You're not making your decisions as an adult. You're making a decision based on how that little person grew up, and from the distorted or dysfunctional way that thinking was allowed. Does that make sense? And that's where can't comes from. That's where fail and failure comes from. That's where try comes from. So the process is, okay, we can use this process just like changing a habit. Like when I talk about getting rid of bad habits and toxic habits, which this is sort of a toxic habit, because you're actually hindering yourself from every potential that the divine probably has out there for you. So what we want to do is, when we're actually going to change not using the word can't, then what we have to do is replace it with something. So in anything, even in the old times of anything, you have to replace something. If you're going to lose something, you have to replace it with something. Now, this happens a lot when you work with people in addiction. So when I worked in chemical dependency, they train people to get rid of the addiction and replace it with something healthy, so that you can actually grow more. And it also takes your mind off of all that toxic and horrible stuff that actually is destroying your life, and not only your body, but your mindset and everything else, because addiction actually starts in the mind, then and spirit, again, that connection of being broken, being dysfunctional, and then that actually leads to your body responding to your soul, and your body is actually saying, okay, I want this drug. I want more of it, because your mindset's broken, and that needs to be retrained, and it can be retrained. So when you take a habit like the word can't, you have to replace it with a positive. I can. Or if you're still growing in those little baby steps up to I can do it, you can say, I will attempt to do it. I will do my best ability to give it a shot. And I'll talk about that next with fail, but you'll want to do that. So you'll also, like I said, you may need some coaching. You have to replace it. So each time that thought comes into your mind, before you even speak it, when that thought comes in, you have to retract it and stop it. That's number 1. Retract that thought and stop it before you speak it, because you give it power when you speak it. There's power in thought, but there's more power in when you speak it. That's putting out an energy. So, and that's a whole different topic, but you're putting out an energy. Stop it, change it, then speak it. Don't say, I can't do that. Just say, you know what, right now, I'm not willing to attempt it. And that becomes a choice. And that leaves a door open for you to be able to do it. If you can't say, I can do this. The idea is to get to the point, I can. Some people put sticky notes up all over their house. I can. You know, we teach little kids, I'm beautiful, I'm strong, I'm smart. We do that. We have to do that as adults sometimes. We have to fix our broken selves and do that to ourselves. So whatever it is, you stop saying the word I can't, you replace it with a positive. I can attempt to. I'm going to. I will do it. I will attempt it. Okay? So those are the kind of things. The next thing is, whoever you are with, even as a friend, let them know what you're doing. You're trying to change some negative habits to a positive habit. Take one good friend that you trust the most, then have them be your accountability partner. Well, what is that, Patty? I don't know what accountability partner is. That means, and we do this in fitness, we do this in nutrition, we do this in all different aspects. We can do this actually in our thought process as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to find somebody and you're going to say, hey, you know what? I'm trying to better myself, and I really have this bad habit of saying the word I can't. So whenever you're with me, if you hear me say that, can you stop me right there? Because I need to actually stop for a second, change it, and put it, because you've already spoken it. So, because if you think it, they don't know. But if you've spoken it, you need to stop yourself right there, change it, and then, because you're recognizing it at that moment in time too, that you can go back and replay that message today that you did that, and go back and why? Why did I do that then? Oh, because I slipped. Okay, we got back on the horse. So we changed it. And that accountability partner too can also be when you're down and low. And that's when all this garbage starts to come up, and the negative and the low self-esteem and all that kind of stuff starts to come up. If things aren't going quite right and that storm is getting a little bit bigger and those challenges are getting a little bit harder, it's sort of like cussing. I sort of do it sometimes, not as much as I do. But the thing is, that's just a negative, nasty word. What does it mean? You could use any word. It's like, if I get mad, oh, it's a kerfuffle. You can use any word. You don't have to say the F word or the S word or the B word. In fact, I'm sorry, but if somebody calls, we won't even go there. Anyway, so what you want to do is you want that accountability partner for not only the times that you are with them, but a time where you can reach out to them and say, hey, I'm having a low day today, and I just can't seem to get on this positive side. Can you just give me, some talk to me positive about your day, or something that's going to lift you up and bring you up, bring your vibrations and your energy up. That's another video, but bring your energies and vibrations up, because we actually live our life on energies and vibrations. And so we actually need to understand where all that comes from. So let's recap with that, because we're going to go to the word fail next, and we'll hit that. So number one, you're going to recognize where this actually started. Recognize how many times a day you're saying it, or a week that you're saying it. I would start out with a day, and then actually find out why do I say actually all the time? So it must be a thinking thing. It gives me a break in my brain or something. So then you're going to find out, where did this come from? Where did this negative word begin, or negative thought process begin, or low self-esteem begin, or low self-worth begin? So you're going to do that. You're going to recognize where it came from. Okay, then you're going to, and you can actually do the 5 W's. When did it start? Where did it start? Who did it start with? How did it start? There's all kinds of things. And, go from there. And then number 2 is to analyze. Analyze the word can't, what it means to you, why you're using it. Almost recognize, but you're going to analyze it deeper and break it down. And then on the number 3, you're going to change the habit. So, excuse me, I had some Japanese noodles, some hirashi ramen this afternoon. So those are the 3 elements that you're going to use. And now if you ever have any questions from any of my videos, and especially if I'm doing a live video, I will answer your questions even live. But you can always email me and ask me questions. I didn't quite understand this, or how did you mean by this, or whatever. Or is there a video on this, or could you do a video on this? Please email me, and I'd be glad to. It should have the information below on Get Balanced 2020. So let's move to failure. And if you really like my channel, don't forget to subscribe. Grow my channel. Let's get to failure. Failure is also fear-based, and I don't believe in the word failure. I don't believe in the word can't. I don't believe in the word try to, or even try. Because when you look at failure, you hear it as that you did something wrong. It's a very destructive, negative word. Well, you can fail at something, Patty. You can. No, you can't. You can learn something from a process or an attempt to do something. Let's take, I don't know. Okay, let's take flying a plane. I like to fly small planes. Okay, I go and I take my lessons and I get up in the plane and I go through a bad situation in a plane, and then all of a sudden I stop. I said, I can't do this, you know, I failed, I can't do this. So that mindset just stopped myself, my progress right there. So I'm like, okay, I just told myself there's no way that I can move forward with this. So if I try to attempt, I'm going to fail anyway. So what's the purpose of going forward? Why do I fail? You know, I'm just going to fail anyway. It's sort of like, have you ever had anybody in your family go and say, you're never going to be amount to anything. You're just a failure. You're just never going to amount to anything. Have you ever had a family member do that to you? Yeah, what a horrible, horrible thing to do. But, and you're saying, well, okay, I don't understand because failure is part of who we are. It isn't. We're actually built to succeed. We're actually built to try and new things. We're built to be able to, we're human beings. We're the most intelligent, supposedly, animal on the earth. So when you go to attempt something and someone says, oh, well, you just failed. Failing a test, no. Even an F, I hate that in school. Even when I was in school, I knew this. I thought, I didn't fail. I did the best I could do at the time I attempted. You need to teach me better or teach me so I can understand. Or did I actually do my due diligence in studying the subject matter at hand to be able to know the answers? Not get an A, but to know the answers. So that is a thing, is that we actually come out of an experience, whether we do something, whether we share something, whether we're in a relationship, you know, oh, you failed me. You know, our relationship failed because of you. Hold back, pull those reins back on that horse, because it's all about what you bring and what your thought process is to the table. So when you're looking at failure, you have to understand that any time that you attempt something, you move forward with something that you want to experience, to do, well, I wouldn't say try, but you would actually want to attempt. Then if you chose to stop that, now this is a choice to stop that, that's your choice. It doesn't mean that you failed. So if I'm going to attempt, let's use scuba diving. I scuba dive. If I were to attempt and to learn how to scuba dive, and I got to a point where I actually swallowed a bunch of water. Now I'm afraid of the water. And I said, I can't do this. I'm failing. There's no way I can do this. I just stop my progress rather than saying, you know what, I took in a lot of water. It's scary. I'm fearful. What can I do? The solution around it to make my learning it easier, to make it better, to find the process that works for me to complete the process of learning to be a scuba diver. Does that make sense to you? So I like to use a little bit of examples because then everybody can sort of see what I'm talking about. It's you stopping your process of learning something or doing something. And even if you didn't complete it, if you got to the middle and you said, you know what, this is not for me, you've come away with experience, you've come away with knowledge, you've come away with a better understanding of who you are and what you like and what you don't like. You've also come away with knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. I want to skydive. I'd love to skydive. Some people would never skydive, but I want to skydive. If I got up there and started to go, and if I didn't jump, I wouldn't know how strong of a person I was. If I didn't jump, I would know that fear was stopping me. So there's a lot of the times fear stops us again to keep moving forward, and using the word fail or I'm a failure is negative and destructive, and I want you to go back and use those same 3 steps using fail and failure. And learn never to speak those words to another person. You're a failure, especially to children. Children, no, because no child is a failure. No child is. It's all about the process of how our brain takes things in and how we process them and how we move forward from them and how we learn from them. And there is a no failed relationship. Here's why. Because if you can fail anything in this earth, and if you want to use that word, which I really don't like, is you fail yourself. Because you didn't take the time to learn about yourself, educate your strengths, your weaknesses, your lessons and everything, and you allowed yourself to block everything out of fear. Now, when you can say that you can go into a relationship and walk away mutually, civilly, and say, hey, I did my best with the knowledge that I had, the education that I had as a man or a woman or whoever you are, of understanding the opposite sex, well, then you walk away mutually and say, you know what can I do to better myself for the next relationship? No relationship fails, and no partner fails each other. It's a learning prospect or a learning process. This could be a prospect also. So those are those things. So that's fail. Go back again to find out those step 3s, recognize, analyze, and change that habit. Okay, and do the same thing. Now the last word is a little tricky because we use this so freely, and you would use the same process as the last 2, step 1, 2, and 3. But actually, many years ago, Nike actually had it right on mark. Just do it. Just do it was their thing. And that actually is right on mark. Because again, if I go back to my Aikido days and I go in and I say, well, I'll try. There is no try. There's no try. You either do it or you don't. You allow fear to control you, or you allow fear to step back and let you attempt to do it. You attempt to do it. You just attempt to do it. Now, and it becomes a choice. Just like love is a choice, just like saying the word can't is a choice, try, fail. Those are all choices that we have chosen to allow our brain to process in a negative manner. Moving forward, we want to use I attempt, I will, I can, I have learned, because there's no fail. So when you use the word try, it's a choice. And when you believe in yourself, you will attempt to do something. Now, here's the thing with try that is different from the rest. Try is, how do I say this politely? I want to say it so bad. It's a half-assed attempt. It's half-assed. So you're either doing it halfway, or you're doing it, well, I'll give it a shot, with the allowance of giving yourself the chance to not complete whatever it is. See, now some of you said, for the chance to fail. No, there is no chance to fail. So you either do it. But whenever you give a chance, or you give something a attempt to try to do something, okay, I'm going to use that word a little bit because you guys aren't familiar with it, attempt. So, but the thing is, when you attempt to do something, for example, I'm an entrepreneur. I owned a business for many, many years. So if I was going to try to own a business, I would just go in there and say, okay, well, yeah, I need a business plan. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, fine. I need that. I need this. I need this process. And I skip half the processes, and then I don't get my business, or my business actually doesn't succeed into being a good brick and mortar long-term business. Whose fault is that? That is mine, because I gave it a attempt. I'll put it this way. I was neutral on the fence, or I wasn't giving it my all, or I wasn't giving it 100%. I was just going in there 50%. So I was giving it a half attempt. I can't talk. So that's what I'm talking about. When you're talking about try, it's either you are on one side or you're not. You're going to do it or you're not. You're going to let fear conquer or you're not. And you have to then ask yourself, subconsciously and consciously, and you need to, in this analyst number 2 step, you need to step back, analyze why I want to do this, how I'm going to do it. Do I have the energy and knowledge to do every step in the process, or do I not? And if you say you don't, you need to even go step back further to actually learn what that process is, what resources you need. Like going back to owning a business, I had to have a business plan. I had to have some funding. I had to know where to get the funding. I had to have a brick and mortar. How did I know about all the permits? How did I know about what the city was asking for and what the county was asking for and what I could do in that brick and mortar and how much I could do in that brick and mortar and where am I going to get my customers? Do you see where that's going? And when you go to do something, you either do it or you don't. You either go all head in or you just say it's not the time right now. It's okay to say, hey, I'm not ready for that. I'm not prepared for that. But if you just are passively telling someone, well, I'll try it. If it's a food and you love food, you're just going to say, no, give it to me. I want it. Yeah, I'm not going to just try it. I'm going to engulf it. I want it. I want to taste everything in that thing. And maybe I'll spit it out, but you know what? It's not that you're going to try it. You're attempting to taste it. Using words can be really, really powerful. And that's why I came on to do this video, because the divine was saying, you got to get on there and do this. He's asked me for a week. And I'm like, but I got so much other things to do. But I listen to what the divine tells me to teach about. So with that, can't, fail, and try. Go through the steps of each one of those. Recognize now what I really ask for you to do is also, this might be for you, but as our purpose and calling in life, it doesn't end with us. If you learn something from this video, if you learn to change something positive in your life, share that knowledge. Share it. You don't have to tell them, oh, go watch this video, even though you could, and tell them to subscribe. But you just go and share the knowledge. That's what this video is about. Sharing something that's going to better your life, get you to your potential, get you up to a higher vibration, higher energy, get you to your purpose and calling. That's it. I hope you learned something. And if I confused you or if you have questions, please go down to Get Balanced 2020. Email me a note. Go to the website. There's lots more videos there. I can't remember how many I have on there. They're all free. They're all free. And if there isn't a video there, please share with me what you would like to hear. Or if you have heard something too much and want to hear something else, tell me that too, because I am here for you. The divine had me start doing this as a calling for you. Not to stop with me, but to help you further your life, better your life, to get balance, bringing mind, spirit, and body together. Take care now.